If you're building a sim rig, one of the questions that comes up all too often is what's better, a VR headset or triple screens? Now, I know everyone has their own opinions. I use both. I have my own opinions on both, but I want to run you through some pros and cons so you guys can make your own decisions and just work out a system that's better for you. What's going on, guys? My name is Kyle and welcome back to the game department. Now, like I said at the start of the video, this is all going to be about VR headsets opposed to triple monitors. Each of them have different pros and cons, and depending on what your sim rig is used for, is going to depend on which option you should go for. Now, I have both and I use both, but it completely depends on what I'm doing with my sim rig as to which option I'm going to go for. Now, me being relatively new to the whole sim racing rig, sim racing setup, there were a couple of things that I had to learn and some mistakes that I made that did cost me a little bit of money. So if I can save you that inconvenience, I will definitely try. Now, if you're building a rig for the first time and you're not sure about which option you should go for, I think one of the big things to consider is what you're actually doing with your rig. If you're one of those sim racers to jump in their rig, race for your own pleasure, whether that's racing competitively or if it's just for you to enjoy a bit of time out on the virtual road. On the other hand, you could be somebody like myself who does like to do those things, but I also like to make content. So not only do we make the YouTube videos, but I also do stream on Twitch 3 days a week at twitch.tv/the game department. You should check it out. But adding creating content to the list of things that you do with your rig, it does change the way that you can do things. So let's talk about VR. Now, the VR headset that I use is this one right here. This is the HP Reverb G2. It is a fantastic VR headset. This was actually a massive recommendation from people in the sim racing community. It has a fantastic resolution. It is very comfortable to wear, and it's a Windows mixed reality headset, which means it uses Steam VR for most things, which allows me to stream in VR and read chat, use overlays, all those things that Steam VR lets you do. It's an amazing option for VR use in your sim rig. Now, while a headset like this is super comfortable for wear, one of the considerations you need to think about is how long you're planning to use your sim rig. When I use this for about an hour maximum before I start to get a slight little tension headache. It feels a bit awkward and weird, especially if you're hot and sweaty in the sim rig. It can get a little bit uncomfortable. Not all the time, I've definitely used it for longer than an hour, but generally I like to keep the use to an hour. Just stops me getting super fatigued and it stops my eyes from getting a little bit weird. I find if I'm doing 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 hours in the sim, which is a very rare occurrence, but it does happen when time escapes you, I think looking at triple monitors is much better for the sense of long-term use as to a VR headset. Obviously, there's still 3 screens right in front of your face, but I still feel like that is better on your eyes and the strain on your body as to something like this. One of the big questions that does come up when this whole conversation arises is what immerses you more? Obviously, with VR, you're in the car. You are literally inside the vehicle. You can look around inside the cockpit. You can see the scenery from the first-person view of what that driver would be seeing. It is very immersive. It is a hell of a lot more immersive than any situation that you could possibly get. But it all comes down to weighing up what you find more important. I feel with the triple monitors, I still feel like I'm getting just as immersed because I can do it for a longer period of time without feeling too disengaged from the content. Obviously, being in VR is always going to be better. It is always going to be better, and there's nothing that's going to change that, especially with the quality of VR getting higher and higher. I only feel like the immersion in VR is going to get greater. But as I'm sure most of you would agree, if I can spend 6 hours on these triple screens and not feel fatigued or not feel drawn out of the game, I'm going to feel more immersed over a longer period of time. It's all good and well, this being the most immersive experience, but if I can only use it for 45 minutes or an hour before I have to take it off, I'm literally drawing myself out of the game or out of the experience, whereas I can withstand that for longer with the 3 screens. Now let's talk about making content. Like I said before, making content is a big part of what I use the sim rig for. It's something that I really enjoy to do, and I can't really achieve that with the VR headset alone. Now, there are definitely some VR creators out there that do a fantastic job of showing the viewer what it's like for them. Unfortunately, I don't have that skill. I have tried it, and I'm definitely going to continue to learn to make that a little bit better for you guys to watch, but I feel like when the context is you drifting around at high speed, doing rally stages where it's very bumpy, very shaky, it can make motion sickness a secondhand experience for the viewer. One of the other major drawbacks about content with VR is streaming. Streaming in VR is definitely doable, but it is very difficult. It's such a hard experience to do, not only to engage with your viewers, but I feel like having a VR headset on your face it sort of detaches you from people watching the streams. Now, like I said before, there are people that do stream in VR. There are people that make VR content that do it really, really, really well. But I feel like in my personal experience, the viewer being able to look into my eyeballs really does help the situation. And I think that gets eliminated very quickly by having a VR headset on. Not only does the VR headset sort of change that perception of talking to a human being, but I feel like in my personal experience, reading things like chat, engaging with people that are in the stream, it becomes a little bit harder than it needs to be, in my personal opinion. Having chat windows up in VR that I can see that you guys can't see, it just sometimes gets a little overwhelming, especially if things aren't as bulletproof as they are in the triple monitors. I don't really see a reason to be streaming in VR. I don't want to have to troubleshoot while I'm live, and I don't want to draw away from the experience that you guys are going to have on the stream if I'm sitting here trying to work out how to get a chat window up in VR. If you are planning on streaming or making content or anything along those lines, I would definitely suggest going for the triple screens. You can always add a headset later, but at least the triple screens will still help you feel as immersed as you need to be while being able to make content. Now, in my situation, the monitors that I use are Gigabyte monitors. They're the GQ32Cs, which are a 32-inch, 165Hz, 1440p monitor. I don't use them in 1440p. I currently have them sitting at 1080, just because my graphics card can't really run triples at 1440, but when I have the opportunity to upgrade graphics cards, I will definitely be running these at 1440. I feel like if I have that there, why not use it? But obviously getting a monitor like this, you don't have to get something this high up. The only reason I use these for the sim is because we had two of them already, and it just made sense to grab another one while it was on sale and just use those monitors. It is definitely overkill. Please don't feel like you have to get a monitor like this for your triples. Any sort of standard 28, 32-inch, 1080p monitor will be perfect. You haven't got to go out and get a 4K 65-inch screen. You can use something very simple. There are definitely things out there that are semi-affordable. In saying that, I do suggest trying your best to not cheap out too much on your monitors. Obviously, everyone has their own budget to work with, which is completely understandable, but if you can stretch just that little bit more for the monitors that you're going to be using, that is what's going to show your image. You can have the best graphics card in the world, but if you have terrible monitors, it's not really going to show how good that image actually looks. Now, one of the last things to take into account is what's going to be more affordable. Obviously, with your triple monitors, you have to spend money on 3 monitors, whereas VR, you're only paying for 1 headset. One of the other things you need to think about with your monitors is you need something to display them on. I use a Track Racer quad monitor stand. I use the quad because I have another monitor on top of the triples that actually shows all the information for the stream. As I said, if that's not what you're using it for, then that's definitely not necessary. I like to have it there with a really old cheap BenQ 24-inch monitor. It does everything that I need it to, but again, that is a cost that you do need to take into consideration. So for example, in comparison, this HP Reverb G2, this headset is worth about 1,000 Australian dollars. Definitely not the cheapest option out there, but if you are going to go with a VR headset, I cannot recommend this enough. Now, with your VR costing you about $1,000, one of the things you do need to take into consideration is you will need another monitor. Obviously, you can use the VR headset for most things, but for all general duties, setting stuff up, installing things, you are going to have a separate monitor to boot the system and get everything ready to go. So unless you already have a monitor at home, you do have to put that into your budget and work out what an entry-level monitor for just that purpose is going to cost you and add that into your total. So let's say, for example, you find a really cheap one, $150 monitor, that'll do everything you need. So your total for the VR and the monitor is going to be about $1,150. Now, I've priced up a triple monitor setup. This is using the Track Racer triple monitor stand, as well as these 3 31.5-inch Acer monitors that have a 165Hz refresh rate and run at 1080p. The monitors themselves are about $320, and the Track Racer stand sits at about $450. So your total for the triple monitor plus the stand comes out to about $1,400, whereas your VR option is going to set you back about $1,150. Now, when you're looking at that difference, you've got the VR plus the monitor at about $250 less than the triple monitor setup. Obviously, with that $250 difference, there are things you can do to upgrade your sim, so it depends on where you want to spend that money, whether you want to go for the triples or not. Now, like I said, this is very dependent on your exact situation. My situation is going to be different to most other people's, and everyone is going to want to use their rig for different things. Now, when you're weighing up these options to see which one is better suited to your situation, one of the last things you do need to think about is the sheer space that a triple screen setup actually takes in a room. I have a whole room in our house dedicated to the sim rig, and to making content, I'm very, very lucky to have that space. If you don't have that space available and you're trying to put a sim rig in a room or tuck it away somewhere, a VR can definitely be a great option. Everybody everybody's situation is different. Everybody uses their rig for different things. But I think the most important part is working out what you do and don't want to use your rig for. If content is never going to be an option and streaming is never going to be something that you really want to think about, going VR can definitely be a great fit. And like I said, worst case scenario, you go for a triple screen setup. A year down the track when VR starts to get a little bit more accessible, grab a VR headset. It may not be the cheapest thing in the world, but at least you'll have two options to choose from. I hope this has helped answer some questions about VR opposed to a triple screen setup. If you do have more questions, please don't hesitate to leave me a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer everybody's questions. And like I said, sit down, think about what you want to use your rig for, and make your decision from there. If you like this video, don't forget to leave it a thumbs up. Also, subscribe. I post new videos every week. You don't want to miss them. If you have any questions about the rig that I use and you want to ask me live, we stream every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at twitch.tv/The Game Department. Come and say hello. Let me know you found this video. I'd love to meet you. If you want to come and join us on any of our social media, I'll leave all the links in the description below. We have a great community of people. We'd love to have you there. Other than that, guys, I'm going to leave you to it. I hope you had a good morning. I hope you have a good night.